test. So all this while we have studied how do we correlate standard penetration test resistance, that is shown by the value of N, where N stands for the number of blows required for the penetration of 30 centimeter, okay, when you use a hammer of around 63 kg. Now there are some correlations or empirical relations which are already obtained. Okay, so there are a number of experiments which have been conducted, and for certain types of tests, there are certain types of soil, there are already some correlations which are obtained. So you need to understand, if suppose the value of N is given, okay, then what are the different expected, what is the different expected behavior of the soil? So for example, if it's a cohesive soil, what do you mean by cohesive soil? If it's a clay soil, okay, which has very fine particle size, something that sticks to your hand, okay, if you expect the soil to be clay from your visual observations, and then you understand that the number of blows that are required for 30 centimeter penetration of the core in the standard penetration test is around 0, then what type of soil do you expect it to be? Then it's obviously going to be very soft clay. If it's going to be somewhere between 0 to 2, okay, yet again, then if it's around 0 to 2, or if it has any amount of resistance, okay, then it will have some value of saturated density. Okay, if it's 0, then obviously the saturated density or unconfined compressive strength is going to be 0, as long as it doesn't have any penetration resistance. That means when you're doing SPT, the core starts sinking under its own weight. The moment it has some value of penetration resistance, then you can expect it to have some value of unconfined compressive strength as well as density. It will be something like a soft clay with a saturated density of 16 to 19.2. Okay, and unconfined compressive strength of 25 kilonewton. Now this won't be the exact value when I take the core to laboratory, but this is somewhere minimum that you can expect. If N value is 4, then the type of soil is medium clay with a saturated density of 17.6 to 20.8 and unconfined compressive strength of 50. If it is 8, then it's going to be a stiff clay. Okay, the value of saturated density will be somewhere around 100. If it's 16, it will be very stiff. If it's 32, it's very hard, and unconfined compressive strength can even go up to 400 kilonewton per square meters. What about non-cohesive soil? So when it comes to sand, also you have established correlations between N and various soil properties. For sands, it starts with a value of 4. There is no established correlation for anything less than 4. Okay, so if it's 4, then you expect it to be very loose sand with a ID of around 15%. Okay, relative density of around 15% and moist density of around 11.2 to 11.6. And phi value approximately is around 28 degrees. Okay, you can pause this video and have a look at the entire chart system. If it is anything above 50, the value of phi can even be more than 45. Okay, as long as it's medium dense, the value of phi will be somewhere around 36. If it's moderately dense, then it will be around 32. Now why I want you all to understand all these things is, if suppose any of these properties are given to you, the moment we say the N value is around 20, then you should have a rough idea about the remaining values also, or remaining properties also. You should be able to gauge what will be the tentative value of phi, what type of the soil it will be. If I just tell you it's a soil with around 30 SPT density, if it's a sandy soil with around 30 SPT density, then you can expect it to have a good angle of friction somewhere around 36. Okay. Similarly, the value of bulk density can also be somewhere around 17.6 to 20.8, which is quite good. But anything less than 20 is something which will have a pretty bad value of can have pretty bad value of bulk density, right? It can go even down up to 14.4. So this is basically a chart which is given for you to gauge what can be the outcome based on the value of SPT resistance and type of soil. So these two, if you just know these two columns, the first you get from the test, second you get from the visual observations, okay? Then you can gauge what will be the remaining properties. This lecture we are also trying to determine bearing capacity from N values, right? Now if you look at this chart is showing width of the footing on x-axis, okay? And on the y-axis you have the pressure that is required, that is QA, that is required to cause 25 mm settlement, okay? You have to remember that the value of settlement is fixed, okay? So for any width of the footing, say around 1.5 width of the footing, for 25 mm settlement, okay, at so and so pressure, what will be the graph? Are you understanding? So let's say you are doing investigations. You have taken SPT rig on your site and you get the value of SPT as, let's say, 40. Okay, and you plan to put a footing of 1.5 by 1.5, width is 1.5. Then what will be the net allowable pressure for 25 mm settlement? What will be the value of QA if permissible settlement is 25 mm? How much should be the value of QA? So let's say my value is around 30 and I obtained from the site investigation is 30. Width of the footing I am proposing, minimum width is what I am proposing is 1.5. Then you understand that QA will be somewhere around 350. Okay, net allowable bearing capacity, if the permissible settlement is 25, will be around 350. Okay, now if you realize if 350 is let's say a not very safe value for you, yeah, actual value of QA, when you do when you use your equation for bearing capacity, you know your QA is somewhere around 300 only. Okay, you are not going to get allowable value of 350. Then what do? Then you have to go back over here, and to get 300, what should be the minimum size of the footing for N value of 30? Somewhere around, this is 1.5, this is 3, so this will be around 2.75, correct? 0.7, yeah, 2.25. So somewhere more than 2.25 is at least required, around 2.5 at least is required if your QA actually is around 300. I hope you are understanding. If you go on the side and you get the value of N is equal to 30, okay, and you want to put footing size of not more than 1.5, so minimum width of the foundation will be 1.5. For that, in that case, your footing will not settle more than 25 mm as long as QA is 350. So you are actually determining, what are you determining from this graph? You are determining QA from SPT value. Say from some other parameters, there are multiple ways to determine QA, correct? So if we find out QA and we get to know that actual QA on the site will never be 350, maximum permissible will be 300, then what you will do? You will come back and you will understand, then in that case the minimum size of footing I am allowed will be somewhere this much. So this can be around 2.7 or something. Understood? So you cannot go for less than 2.7. If you go for less than 2.7, QA will be around 300 or the settlements may increase. Either of the two. Okay. Now what happens if the settlement is around 40? Okay, permissible settlement for the type of soil is not 25, it is around 40. Then what you do? Whatever QNA you get from the chart, you multiply by 40 divided by 25 that will be the actual Na required. Okay, QNA required. So you get whatever you get from the chart. If the permissible settlement is 40, not 25. Okay, so you multiply by 40 by 25 to the QNA that you obtain from the chart. Now, major assumption before we constructed this chart is that water table will be always 2B below the foundation. So, if this is your foundation, then water table will never come closer to foundation. If this is your foundation, then the depth of the water table will be 2B or more. It will never come closer than that to foundation. Now obviously this is an assumption that is made while the chart was constructed. Now in case this assumption is not true, then do we completely disqualify, do we completely throw the chart in the dustbin? No. In that case, some correction factors have to be applied. So let's understand what are the correction factors. Broadly classifying, there are two cases. First is if the water table is at the base of the footing. So if the water table is here. Okay. If the water table is here, then again there will be two sub cases in this case. This is a very simple thing if you remember it this way. If you try to go through your textbooks, there are chances that you may not understand how these corrections have to be applied. So if your water table is at this base, then this next thing you have to go for is DF by B ratio. Okay? If water table is at this base and DF by B ratio is 0, okay, then the reduction factor will be 50%. So whatever QNA you have got from the chart, you multiplied by 1 minus the reduction factor. Okay. So how you are getting this 0.5 QNA is actually 1 minus reduction factor. Where is the reduction factor? Reduction factor is here. Okay. So 1 minus the reduction. So 1 minus 0.5 will be 0.5 QNA. Simple. If DF by B is anything greater than or equal to 0, then it will be again 1 minus reduction factor. So 1 minus 0.33, it is 0.67 QNA. So QNA, what you get from the chart, you have to multiply 0.67 to that value. You will get the value of QNA when the water table is at the base. Now anywhere in between values, between 0 to 1, you will have to interpolate, obviously. Then the next thing is water table rises to a level between the base and the depth of 2B. To a level between the base and the depth of 2B. So anywhere in between if your water table is. Now over here again the same two sub criteria. If it is 0 then 50%. If it is greater than equal to 1 then 33%. Okay. So now before we come to this column, let's take an example. Let's say your water table is 0.5B from the base. Okay. So it's basically this distance is 0.5B. Then what do we do is, if it's 0.5B, then you multiply. You understand how we get this 0.5? This 0.5 is directly the reduction factor. Okay. So 0.5 into DF will be 0.5. This depth will be 0.5. Okay. So this will be 0.5B divided by 2B. So here you get 0.125. So how do you get your final this thing? This is 12.5%. So here this 87 is 1 minus 0.125. So that's giving you 87.5%, otherwise 0.875 QNA. Are you understing the calculation of this? 87.5%. So basically this entire thing 0.5 into 0.5 by B is what we are doing to find out the reduction factor, okay, RF. And that RF will be deducted from 1. So how you get this 0.125? 0.5B will be the distance between the water table and your base of the foundation, divided by 2B. 2B is what we have assumed to determine the value of QNA from the chart. So 0.5 into 0.5B by 2B, you get around 0.125. 1 minus 0.125, you will get 0.875. So your QNA corrected will be 0.875 into QNA that you get from the chart. Now, if DF is greater than 1, now the same procedure, 0.33 into 0.5B for the same placement of water table. Okay, so 0.5B upon 2B, you will get around 25%. So what will be your QNA? 1 minus 25%, that is 0.75 QNA. Now, if the problem says your depth is something different, let's say it's just 0.1B. Okay, your water table is somewhere between 2B and 0.1B. So your water table location is very close. Say this is 0.1B. So how will you calculate this now? Let's say your DF by B is 0. Okay, so here what you will do? 50 into 0.1B upon 2B. So that will be how much? 5%. Sorry, it will be how much? 2.5%. Correct? 2.5%. So what will be your QNA? It will be 0.975. 1 minus 0.25. Correct? No? So 0.975 QNA. This will be your correction factor. Okay? This is how you calculate.